in the first part, England came back from a 3-win deficit. Flintoff humiliated his rival in front of his people and then celebrated it by running across the Wankhede stadium, waving his shirt in the air. In time though, people would forget about this moment, this humiliation. They would write it off as just another loss. All of them, except one person, one captain, refused to let this go, etching this moment deep into his heart. This is the story of what happened next. If anybody has not seen the first part of the series, I would highly recommend that you go and watch that first. It tells the story of the bad blood between Dada and Flintoff, even before last match happened. But for now, starting from this series, the entire Indian team's form seemed to have taken a nosedive. A team that just a few months back had managed to defeat South Africa in South Africa was now even failing to defeat Zimbabwe at home. It would take a 136 runs brilliancy from Dada himself to somehow eke out a victory. So, for all intent and purposes, it seemed as if that loss had damaged the confidence of this team. And now, Dada would have about 3 months to stitch it back up, cause that's when the Natwest series was about to start. A tri-nation series between India, England and Sri Lanka to be played in England. Dada's team would have to be ready by then, cause that's where he would have his revenge. With this in mind, the team departed for West Indies, when in the next 2 months, they would go on to create history. They won the first ever ODI series victory on West Indian soil. The hero? Dada. Not only was he the top scorer, but such was his ferocity that he seemed to have willed his team to victory here. The problem was, so had the opposition. They first went on to draw a series in New Zealand, followed by nearly whitewashing Sri Lanka at home. The upcoming Natwest series was going to be a spectacle. 2 teams back in form at just the right time. One mind for revenge, the other for domination. This series was gonna be epic, and you could tell right from the first match. England would sail to an easy victory against Sri Lanka, mostly due to the man of the match Flintoff's blistering half-century, followed by a 3-wicket haul. An amazing start that would be stopped right in its tracks. Dravid and Yuvraj would build a 131-run partnership to win the second match. The host would get a bloodied nose in the very first encounter. India had made it clear they were here to settle scores. This victory started an undefeated run for India in the tournament. The greatest part about which was all of them had come after losing the toss and chasing, when India's record while chasing till that point was a record of everything that could go wrong in a cricket match. So this Indian run was being hailed as a historic shift in Indian team's mindset and toughness. Here is the thing though. In spite of not losing once till the last part of the group stage, when they were about to face England in a dress rehearsal for the final, they were still not the bookies' favourite to win. The reason? By this time, this Indian team had earned the reputation of being chokers. From 1999 to 2002, India had reached the finals of 9 multi-nation tournaments, each and every time failing spectacularly. And now, even in the dress rehearsals for the finals, they decided to stay true to their reputation. In a rain-limited 32 overs match, a half-century by Flintoff gave a required run rate of 7.5 to win, which still looked achievable till Dada got out. And then, in what felt like a repeat telecast of Wankhede's match, everybody followed. A team that had seemed nigh undefeatable till now collapsed like a pack of cards. The final score, 165 all out. And as if that was not bad enough, came the news. Ganguly and Sachin were injured. A final that was supposed to be the clash of titans. It was now shaping up to be a one-sided massacre. And the Indian players could feel it too. Just before the start of the match, you could taste the nervousness in the room. The coach John Wright, himself trying to hide his shaking hands, was trying to calm his players down. Don't bother about the big finals at Lords. Just stick to the game plan. And fight, he said. A good advice that mostly fell on deaf ears. The morale was down. They needed a miracle. And it came. Just before the start of the match, Sachin and Ganguly had passed their fitness test. They weren't at their 100%, but fit enough to play. And somehow, with this, the wind suddenly seemed to have shifted. In spite of losing the toss again and having to chase again, the mood didn't dampen. Because on the pitch, the English openers that had demolished them in the last few matches were having a difficult time against them. Edges going past left, Nicks being just out of reach. A breakthrough seemed just around the corner, but when it came, everybody started wishing that it hadn't. Cause in walked Nasir Hussain. Throughout this series, his captaincy, his number 3 position had been questioned due to his lack of form. And last week's paper even had a scathing article written about him by past English players. So, Nasir was angry and it showed. He, along with Truscottish, went on to create a 185-run partnership, both of them scoring centuries in the process. Dada would try to employ 7 different bowlers in order to break the partnership, all to no avail. And finally, when the pair would fall and India would see a glimmer of hope, it would be quickly stamped on by a belligerent Flintoff. At halftime, the scoreboard would read 325 for 5. Now this score may not seem like much today, but at the time, in ODI cricket's 31-year-long history, a score above 300 had been chased a grand total of 7 times. And now to do so on a foreign ground, with the reputation of choking, nobody had any hopes of India winning this match. The entire dressing room was a scene of hunched back and drooping shoulders. Everybody was convinced of the upcoming defeat. Everybody except Dada, who was sitting in a corner. Not nervous, not down, just angry. He refused to talk to the coach. Even Lakshman's advice to be cautious, start slow, save wickets, all of it fell on deaf ears. They needed 6.5 runs to win. He would do what he had to do. And so began the rampage. Ball after ball, boundary after boundary. Dada pummeled his way to a 35-ball half-century. His opening partnership with Sehwag took India to 106 in just 14.3 overs. That's 220 required from 213 balls. What was impossible before now just looked improbable. But then, say it with me, Dada got out. And so followed the rest of the team. By the time Tendulkar got out at 146 for 5, that was the end. The match was over. There was nothing left to see. The coach John Wright could be seen in the dressing room, sitting in a corner, mumbling to himself. Sachin and Dravid would go for their post-game massages, away from the massacre that was to follow. And Dada, he would sit in a corner, refusing to look up. He would later go on to say that even he believed at that point they had lost. But that's the thing about people. When we seem to have reached low enough, somehow there is no place to go but up. With zero hopes of actually winning the match, the pressure finally lifted. And slowly, the entire team got up and decided to watch the youngsters have fun. The youngsters being the Under-19 World Cup winning captain and player combo, Kaif and Yuvraj. Now maybe the dressing room would have been even more relaxed if they knew what Yuvraj knew. Truscottish's first ball had clipped his hand. His little finger was now completely fractured. The 21-year-old was having a hard time even holding on to the bat, while the 22-year-old on the other end, who had joined this team just 5 months back, was now being sledged by the entire English team, who kept on calling him the Indian team's bus driver. So, by any measure of the yardstick, this match was gone. It was just a matter of time now. And so, the dressing room sat down and decided to enjoy the show. And they saw, while going quieter and quieter, because somehow the two youngsters had turned the tide for India. Starting from just singles and doubles, taking advantage of the fielding mistakes, they had slowly and gradually brought the target down. Even though the required run rate was now about 8, the scoreboard had not stopped ticking once. And hence, you had Harsha Bhogle sitting in the commentary box asking, are we on to something here? A sentiment that was now resonating in the dressing room. Sachin quickly declared, nobody is moving from their spots. Our positions have worked till now, so everybody stay exactly where you are. That meant people would watch this match, standing in the doorways, sitting in the toilets, even Dravid and Sachin being marooned on the massage table for the rest of the match. As the entire dressing room turned into statues, the pitch would have the youngsters burst into action. The 1s and 2s had now given way to 4s and 6s, starting from Yuvraj hitting 2 for a 4 in the 37th, followed by hitting Flintoff for 3 consecutive 4s next. Kaif too, seemingly emboldened by Yuvraj, would soon follow suit. Over by over, shot by shot, the run rate would be brought down, till finally we needed 59 runs in 51 balls. But then, in what seemed like a scripted moment, Yuvraj was caught out. And suddenly, people actually realized India's situation. The rest of the lineup read Bhaji, Kumble, Zahir and Nehra, meaning, for all intent and purposes, this match would come down to KF. Even veteran batsmen would have felt the enormity of the moment. He could make history here. The radio broadcast blared, KF should play steadily here, save his wicket, in response to which KF would stand still and hit the ball for a 6. KF didn't like looking at the scoreboard, nor did he care much about pacing. He would play his own game. Consequences be damned. And this attitude would soon pay dividends. As ball after ball would be hit out of the ground, the required run rate would take a steep dive. By the 47th over, we only needed 14 runs in 18 balls. The match seemed in the bag, and right on cue, in walked the one person who seemed to have a knack of squashing Indian dreams, who had the most motivation of stopping this Indian victory. After all, he had just managed to get his revenge. No way would he just get beaten up again. Yup, the ball went to Flintoff, who within the span of 3 balls took out both Bhaji and Kumble. KF would later go on to say that at that moment, he truly believed that they were gonna lose. In spite of only needing 11 runs of 12 balls, he was convinced of their loss because all they had were 2 wickets left, with the last over guaranteed to be in the hands of him. So, as the first 5 balls of the second last over would go for 5 runs, KF, rather than going off strike on the last ball, decided to go for a wild heave, which went to a completely different direction for a 4. The whole stadium went crazy. We had won. We only needed 2 runs to win now. But then the reality sunk in. That 4 meant that now Zaheer Khan would have to face the last over while facing him. In Wankhede 6 months back, Badani batting on 27 had to just watch in shock and horror as Kumble and Shrikant had been taken out by Flintoff himself. And now, another last over with the same number of wickets left and a bowler at strike. It truly felt like deja vu. And so, as millions of fans bit their nails in nervousness, came the first ball. Zaheer walked down the pitch to try to take a run and is sent back. Surrounded by the entire English team on the onside, he is nervous. Everybody can tell. Flintoff walks in close to him and stares him down before turning back. The next ball veers off to the leg side with the whole team going up in appeal, which is turned down. Dada can be seen in the Lord's balcony, one leg above the railing, clutching onto the amulets around his neck, seemingly praying to each and every god that may be willing to listen. Please, please, let it be different this time. Something was about to happen on the next ball. Everybody could feel it. And the die was cast. Zaheer taps the ball and runs for dear life. KF has long since left the crease. Ball is thrown, KF dives, and a misfield. As a distraught Flintoff hunches down in devastation, he misses the fact that Dada, standing on the balcony, is looking straight at him, waiting for him to look up. Look up and see an Indian captain waving his shirt in the air. Now, it would make complete sense for the story to end here, right? The bowler that had danced across our lords now stood distraught in his. A poetic and fitting end. But what most have forgotten about this series is that it didn't actually end here. In this India's tour to England, the Natwest series was to be followed by a 4-match test series. And the fact that a foreign captain had stood shirtless at their lords, it had the entire English team frothing at their mouth, looking for a chance for revenge. What had started off as a revenge story of one man had now become a revenge story for the entire team. The Indians had been humiliated at home, then the English in theirs. The scores were actually level till this point. The test series to come would be the decider. And oh, what a decider it was to be. So do catch the last part of the series. Till then, I hope you have a good day. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you.